Hello, my dear friends. I'm sorry I did not deliver a drasha last Friday. I had an emergency. I felt terrible. I wanted to record. I usually record Friday morning. It was impossible. Here is this week's thought. Torah describes the priestly garments in this week's Parashes of Titzaveh. And the Torah says, God told Moshe you should make big day kodesh for Aaron HaKohen, for your brother Aaron. The Kohen Gadol wore 8 garments. The regular Kohen and the Kohen Hedron wore 4. And they were very elaborate and fancy with precious stones and material. God said, you know why I'm telling you to make these garments? L'chavadu sefaris, so that Aaron should feel proud, he should feel honored in the sense of a splendor. Now the question is, why does the Kohen Gadol have to feel covered? You would think, on the contrary, he should be a person of great humility. He's standing in front of the master of the universe, in the Holy of Holies. He needs to feel covered. So, I once heard, here's what I wanted to say. I heard a beautiful story once from Rabbi Esteem, who heard it from the person knew one of the participants in the story, the Luban of Rav. The Luban of Rav, that was Rabbi Shapiro. He was the one that initiated the idea of Daf Yomi. He was a brilliant Talmid Chacham and a very special individual. He died at a young age. So he was on a train with the Chavetz Chaim, and the train was stopping. Each station it stopped, there were people assembled, and they wanted to get a glimpse. They heard the Chavetz Chaim was on the train. They wanted to see a glimpse of the holy Chavetz Chaim. Even in his lifetime, he was legendary. Chavetz Chaim refused to budge. He sat in his seat. He was learning his sefer. So the Luban Rav said, Rabbi Yisrael Meir, that was the Chavetz Chaim's name. Rabbi Yisrael Meir, why don't you go to the window? The people want to see you. And he says, I can't do it. He says, why not? He says, because if I do that, I might feel a sense of covet. He says, so you'll have covet. So what'll be wrong if you have covet? She says, covet, it will make me a Russia. She says, okay, so, and if you'll be a Russia? She says, a Russia? She says, I'll lose my Olam Haba, and I'll go to Gehenna. So he says, the Yisrael Meir, don't you know that it's more important to give pleasure to a fellow Jew than it is to hold on to your Olam Haba? It's worth it to go to Gehenna in order that a Jew should have Hana, should have pleasure in this world. Who comes to the Beis Hamikdash? Kohen Gadol is standing in the Beis Hamikdash. Who's there? Who comes? It's the sinners. It's the people that have messed up, the people who have committed terrible crimes. And they want to have an opportunity to atone. They come with their livestock and their animals, so it's a very public, it's not a private thing. The role of the Kohen Gadol is not only to help them atone for the Aveira, but it's to restore the dignity of the individual. Human dignity is so important. Dr. Avram Tversky, famous psychologist who passed away 2 years ago, said that he wrote 100 books and they're all about the same topic, and that is self-esteem. Because without self-esteem, then a person will never amount to anything. He said each book had a different title and a different format, but it was all about the same topic, self-esteem. A person needs self-esteem in order to accomplish anything important in life. So the role of the Kohen Gadol was to restore the self-esteem of the sinners that came to the Beis Hamikdash. They felt dejected. They felt disenfranchised. They felt not part of Klal Yisrael. He had to change their own self-image. And he did so by modeling for them. He stood in the priestly garments, and when they saw the Kohen Gadol, it was a sight to be seen. In the Yom Kippur Davening, we talk about how amazing it was to see the Kohen Gadol when he emerged from the Kodesh Kodashim. Oh, they had to see that in order that their own sense of honor should be restored. So you'll say, yeah, but what about the Kohen Gadol? You're good. The people, they need to restore their dignity. But does he have to suffer? Does he have to become a Baal Guy? Does he have to wear these fancy clothing with eight different garments? The answer is, yeah, he does. Because that's more important than his own Haba. It's if he has an opportunity to restore the dignity of Klal Yisrael, of the people, of the Jewish people, the ones that have sinned and feel dejected. It's worth it to give up his Olam Haba, like Rabbi Shapiro said, in order to restore the dignity of the Jewish people. I shared this thought with Rabbi Esteem. So he pointed out that right after the other Mechava Eish V'Dei Tzedas, what did God do? He made them clothing, Kos Nasor V'Yalbishem, leather garments, and he clothed them. Well, how come that God had nothing else to do with his time? And the point is because Adam and Chava, after they sinned, they have lost their sense of self-respect. And clothing is what gives a human being dignity. Clothing separates a human being from an animal. The Targum, Rabbi Esteem pointed out to me, says that a God made for them kasnasor. The way the Targum translates it is levusha diyakar, clothing of honor, because that's the purpose of clothing. It shows that we're special. We're people. A person's not supposed to walk around in tattered clothing. It's torn and shreds. A person has to feel dignified, a sense of importance, and that's what the Kohen Gadol, his job was to restore that sense in the people. Takeaway from here is the importance of self-esteem. So first, of course, for our own selves, that we all have to have self-esteem. It's not healthy. Sometimes people knock themselves and say, I'm no good, and they think they're doing a mitzvah. It's no mitzvah. It's no good to feel that you're worthless. That's an aveira. Every person has to feel, because if you're worthless, then why should you do anything that's worthwhile in this world? Now that's a person has to has to hold on to his own covenant. If a person sometimes feels a sense of detachment, has to build himself up again. But the second part of it is related point is that not only is it important to build up your own covenant, but it's important to build up other people's covenant. That other people should feel very important. I've talked to myself blue in the face about the importance of giving compliments. You can build a person up so easily. My father was a genius in that respect. He knew how to compliment every single person and to find something about the person that made the person special. And he people walked away from my father feeling so good because he knew how to show them that he thought so highly of them. His smile was so warm and embracing. When you smile at somebody, you show them that you care about them, that you love them, that you think that they're special. So we need to think about not only about our own covenant, but also the covenant of other people. It's our job. The Kohen Gadol had to worry about the covenant of Klal Yisrael, even to the extent that he would lose his own haba in order to show the glory of his position, of the glory of a human being. So we all have the same responsibility. That even if to make sure that a person, not only ourselves, but to make sure that other people have a sense of covenant dignity. I shared this thought with Rabbi Esteem after he told me the story of the Chavetz Chaim and Rabbi Luban. So he made a beautiful addition. He said that after Adam Rishon sinned, what did God do? God made clothing for Adam and Chava. Why? Because clothing is what gives a person a sense of dignity. Without clothing, we're no different than the animal kingdom. Clothing makes the man. And therefore God himself, he didn't just tell Adam, go make yourself some clothing. God himself made clothing for the Rishon in order to restore his dignity. Because other than the Rishon messed up big time. Because of other Rishon and Chava, all sorts of consequences. So God wanted to restore their dignity. So right immediately after the sin of the Eitzadas, it says that God made them clothing by Albishim, and he clothed them. In the Targum, Rabbi Esteem pointed out, the Targum says, what does it mean, kasnasor, leather garments? The Targum says, levusha diyakar, clothing of importance, clothing that reflects that they are special, because that was the purpose of the clothing, in order to restore the sense of covenant to the people. So this is a terrific takeaway message from the covenant of Sepharis. The covenant, it's not a dirty word, it's not a bad thing. Every human being has to have covenant. We all have to have covenant. I was about to tell you, and then I got sidetracked. But I have a friend who I told him you have to try to build up a certain person that he's close with, a certain relative. Build the person up. I said, you give him compliments every. He says, I can't. I said, why not? He says, because if I compliment the person will feel that it's fake. I said, don't worry, they won't feel it. When it comes to compliments, people don't feel that you're fooling, that you're faking. Maybe somebody else might think that, but the recipient of the compliment always feels good to get a compliment. Tell the person that they're good. Now, the person knows that I think that they're good. I said, tell them. Why do I have to tell them? And I told them once, 14 years ago, I said something nice about, what's wrong with you? Why can't you tell the person how special they are? This is unfortunately human nature. People have a blockage against making other people feel good. All you have to do then cost a penny. Smile and say, you know what, you're special. And that's worth $1 million to the other person. And that's our responsibility. Just like it was the responsibility of the Kohen Gadol to wear priestly garments, l'chavod u'sefaris, in order to model kavod for the Jewish people, even though he meant modeling himself. but he had to model it for the Jewish people. So we also have to think about always the dignity and the ikar, that not only of ourselves, but of our fellow man. And we have to find every way possible in order to build up the self-esteem of every individual.